The provocation. The HS Thunderbolt cut through the void like a predator, its sleek obsidian hull absorbing, rather than reflecting the distant starlight. On the command bridge, Captain Ilara Voss stood with her hands clasped behind her back, studying the tactical display. Her dark eyes reflected the holographic projection of the Orion Arm, where 7 human colonies had gone silent in the past 3 months. "Status report," she demanded, her voice carrying the weight of 15 years in Earth's United Space Command. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chen looked up from his console. "All systems nominal, Captain. We're approaching the Proxima Defensive Station at standard velocity. ETA 43 minutes. Voss nodded. The Thunderbolt represented humanity's finest technological achievement, a warship equipped with experimental graviton shields and antimatter-enhanced weapons systems that the Galactic Concord had strongly advised against developing. Earth had ignored those recommendations, quietly building their fleet while the more established species dismissed them as primitive newcomers to the interstellar community. That dismissal had been a critical mistake. "Communications," Voss called. "Any response from the Zethian Alliance regarding our diplomatic inquiries?" Lieutenant Aisha Rahman shook her head. "Only automated acknowledgments, Captain. Their high command claims to have no knowledge of what happened to our colonies. 7 colonies don't just vanish, Lieutenant." Voss turned to her science officer, Dr. Nakamura. "Analysis of the sensor data we gathered at Epsilon Colony." The older Japanese man frowned at his displays. "Conclusive evidence of directed energy weapons, Captain. The molecular disintegration patterns match Zethian military technology." He looked up, his expression grave. This wasn't random piracy or a natural disaster. It was systematic elimination. A tense silence fell across the bridge. The Zethian Alliance, a coalition of 3 technologically advanced species, had dominated this sector for millennia. They had grudgingly accepted humanity's expansion into what they considered their sphere of influence, but apparently their patience had run out. "They thought we wouldn't notice," Voss said quietly, "or they thought we wouldn't dare respond." Marcus Chen's console beeped urgently. "Captain, we're picking up a transmission from Proxima Station. It's..." He hesitated. "It's on an emergency channel." "On screen," Voss ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a human woman with blood streaming from a gash on her forehead. Alarms wailed in the background, and smoke filled the command center behind her. "This is Administrator Santos of Proxima Station." The woman gasped. "We are under attack by Zethian warships. They've disabled our primary defenses and communications array. They're demanding the surrender of all human personnel for..." An explosion rocked the station, temporarily cutting the transmission. When it resumed, Santos was coughing through the smoke. "For relocation, don't believe them. We intercepted internal communications. They're planning to eradicate all human outposts in this sector. We need immediate..." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Accelerate to combat velocity," Voss ordered without hesitation. "Tactical, prepare all weapons systems. Communications, notify Earth Command that we are engaging hostile forces at Proxima Station under Article 7 emergency protocols." The bridge erupted into controlled activity as the Thunderbolt surged forward, its revolutionary engines pushing it to speeds that conventional wisdom said were impossible to achieve without tearing the ship apart. 27 minutes later, they dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Proxima system. The tactical display immediately highlighted 12 Zethian vessels surrounding the station, a massive show of force against a scientific and diplomatic outpost. "They've detected us," Chen reported. 3 Zethian cruisers breaking formation to intercept. "Open a channel," Voss commanded. When the communication system indicated readiness, Captain Voss spoke clearly and deliberately. "Zethian vessels, this is Captain Ilara Voss of the Earth warship HS Thunderbolt. You are attacking a peaceful human outpost in violation of the Galactic Concord treaties. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your actions." The response was almost immediate. A tall, slender alien with iridescent scales and 4 eyes appeared on screen. High Commander Thrax of the Zethian Defense Force regarded Voss with undisguised contempt. "Captain Voss, your single vessel is outmatched 12-1. The human presence in this sector has been deemed a security threat to the Zethian Alliance. Stand down and prepare to be boarded, or we will be forced to destroy your ship." Voss smiled thinly. "I don't think you understand the situation, High Commander. This isn't a negotiation." She cut the transmission with a gesture and turned to her tactical officer. "Lieutenant Rivera, target their lead vessel's propulsion systems. Low-yield demonstrator only." "Targeted, Captain. Antimatter payload at minimal yield." "Fire." The Thunderbolt's main cannon discharged a concentrated pulse that crossed the vast distance almost instantaneously. The lead Zethian cruiser's engines erupted in a brilliant explosion that sent the vessel spinning uselessly in space. Stunned silence followed on the bridge as sensor readings confirmed what had just happened. A single shot from the human vessel had disabled a Zethian heavy cruiser. "Open the channel again," Voss ordered. High Commander Thrax's face appeared once more, his scales now pulsing with colors that indicated alarm and rage. "That was the weakest weapon in our arsenal, Commander," Voss stated calmly. "The next demonstration won't be aimed at your engines. You have 5 minutes to withdraw all forces from Proxima Station and release any detained humans. After that, we will consider this an act of war against Earth, and I will be authorized to respond accordingly." "This is outrageous," Thrax hissed. "The Concord will." "The Concord will what?" Voss interrupted. "Condemn us for defending our people against genocide. We have evidence of your attacks on 7 human colonies. The Epsilon massacre is being broadcast to every Concord species as we speak." This was a bluff, but Voss maintained her confident expression. 4 minutes remaining, Commander." As the standoff intensified, sensors detected a new ship entering the system, but it wasn't Zethian. The unusual design and energy signature identified it as belonging to the Krell, a species known for their advanced scientific achievements, but limited military presence. "Captain," Chen reported, "the Krell vessel is hailing us." "Put them through," Voss ordered, curious about this unexpected development. The screen split, showing both the fuming Zethian commander and a new figure, a Krell representative with translucent skin through which complex circulatory systems were visible, pulsing with bioluminescent fluids. "Human Captain." The Krell began, their synthesized voice calm and measured. "I am Observer Tella of the Krell Scientific Collective. We have been monitoring the Zethian Alliance's activities in this sector. Their aggression is not limited to human settlements." Silence. Thrax snarled. "This is none of your concern, Observer. 3 Krell research outposts have been destroyed in the past solar cycle," Tella continued, ignoring the Zethian. "We have confirmed that the Zethian High Council has initiated what they call the Purification, a campaign to eliminate what they consider lesser species from their claimed territories." Voss's expression hardened as she processed this information. "How many species are targeted?" 7, including humans and Krell," Tella answered. "The others are smaller civilizations without significant defensive capabilities." "This is treasonous misinformation," Thrax insisted, but his scales had shifted to a pattern that Dr. Nakamura's xenobiology database identified as indicating deception. 2 minutes, Commander Thrax," Voss stated coldly. "Observer Tella, what is your purpose here?" The Krell's internal fluids pulsed more rapidly. "To propose an alliance. The Krell Collective has advanced scientific knowledge, but limited military assets. You have demonstrated capabilities that could alter the balance of power. Together, we could stop the Zethian aggression before more innocent lives are lost." Voss considered this offer carefully, aware of the strategic implications. Earth had been seeking allies among the established galactic powers, most of whom had dismissed humans as primitive upstarts. The Krell, while not a military power, were respected for their scientific achievements and ethical governance. 1 minute, Commander Thrax, Voss announced. Your decision. The Zethian commander's face contorted with rage. You will regret this defiance, human. The full might of the Zethian alliance will descend upon your worlds. I'll take that as a refusal to comply, Voss responded. She turned to her tactical officer. Target their command ship's weapon systems. Wait, Thrax hissed. We will withdraw from the station, but this isn't over, Captain Voss. The Alliance will not tolerate such insolence. Noted, Voss replied. And, Commander, if any human colony or outpost goes silent again, I won't bother with warnings. The thunderbolt will come, and you will not see us until it's too late. Withdraw your forces now. As the Zethian vessels began to retreat, Voss turned her attention to the Krell observer. I believe we have mutual interests to discuss. Observer Tela. Permission to dock with your vessel for a direct conference. The Krell's bioluminescence brightened. Granted, Captain Voss. Perhaps together, we can show the galaxy that dismissing newer species was the Zethians' gravest error. As preparations began for the diplomatic meeting that would reshape galactic politics, Captain Voss allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. Humanity had been underestimated, dismissed as inconsequential by species who had traversed the stars for thousands of years longer. That dismissal was about to cost them dearly. The HSS Thunderbolt had announced humanity's true capabilities to the galaxy, and the galaxy was beginning to tremble. The Reckoning. The observation deck of the Krell vessel Enlightened Inquiry offered a panoramic view of space, with Proxima Station and the HSS Thunderbolt visible against the backdrop of distant stars. Captain Ilara Voss stood beside Observer Tela, whose translucent form pulsed with complex patterns of bioluminescence. The Zethians will return with reinforcements, Tela stated, tendrils of light flowing through neural pathways visible beneath their skin. Our intelligence suggests they have already summoned their third fleet from the Cygnus sector. Voss nodded grimly. How many vessels? 43 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Marcus Chen, who had accompanied his captain to the meeting, let out a low whistle. Even with the Thunderbolt's capabilities, those are impossible odds. Perhaps, Voss said, her mind already calculating possibilities. Observer Tela, you mentioned your people have advanced scientific knowledge. What can you tell me about Zethian shield harmonics? The Krell's internal fluids quickened noticeably. We have extensive data on their defensive systems. The Zethians use a triple-layered quantum field that recalibrates every 4.3 seconds to prevent targeted disruption. A pause then. You're considering something unconventional. It wasn't a question. Voss smiled thinly. Humanity has survived because we excel at unconventional solutions. Lieutenant Commander Chen, contact Dr. Nakamura. Tell him to prepare the Helix protocol. Chen's eyes widened. Captain, Helix is still experimental. We've never deployed it in actual combat. Then this will be an excellent field test, won't it? Voss turned back to the Krell observer. I need to know the exact quantum resonance frequencies of the Zethian fleet. Can your scientists provide that? Easily, Tela responded, their body glowing with what Voss had come to recognize as excitement. But what do you intend to do with this information? I intend to teach the galaxy why underestimating humanity is a fatal mistake. 12 hours later, the predicted Zethian reinforcements arrived, dropping out of FTL in perfect formation, a display of military precision meant to intimidate. The Third Fleet spread across the system in a classic encirclement pattern, with the 3 massive dreadnoughts positioned at strategic points to prevent escape. On the Thunderbolt's bridge, Captain Voss watched the tactical display with calculated calm. They're hailing us, Captain, Lieutenant Raman reported. On screen. The main view screen activated to show not Commander Thrax, but a new Zethian, older, with scales that had faded to a pale blue and eyes that held the cold calculation of centuries of experience. I am Grand Admiral Zex4X of the Zethian Alliance, the figure announced. Your actions at Proxima Station constitute an act of war against our people. Surrender your vessel and withdraw all human presence from this sector, or face annihilation." Voss regarded the Admiral with an expression of mild interest. "Grand Admiral, I am Captain Ilara Voss of Earth. Before we discuss terms, I'd like to know something." She leaned forward slightly. "Why target humans? We're newcomers to the galactic stage. We control barely 20 systems. What possible threat could we pose to an empire spanning thousands of worlds?" The Grand Admiral's upper eyes narrowed. "Your kind advances too rapidly. Your adaptability and technological progression exceed acceptable parameters. Left unchecked, humans would destabilize the established order within 3 generations. The Alliance has maintained peace for 12,000 years by ensuring that no emerging species upsets the balance of power." "Peace through genocide," Voss observed. "How enlightened. It is the burden of leadership to make difficult decisions for the greater good," Zexvorax replied without remorse. "You have 1 hour to commence evacuation of your colonies in this sector." The transmission ended, and Voss turned to her crew. "Status of Helix?" "Ready, Captain," Dr. Nakamura confirmed from the science station. The Krell data on Zethian shield frequencies was comprehensive. "We've calibrated the system accordingly." "And the Krell vessel?" "In position behind Proxima Station, as requested," Chen reported. "Though I still don't understand why you asked them to remain so close to the station." Voss allowed herself a small smile. "Because I want them to survive what happens next." She straightened her uniform. "Open a channel to the Zethian flagship." When Grand Admiral Zexvorax appeared again, Voss didn't wait for him to speak. "Admiral, I've considered your generous offer, and I have a counter-proposal. Withdraw your forces, acknowledge the sovereign rights of all species in this sector, and face a formal inquiry before the Galactic Concord regarding your attempted genocide." The Zethian scales flushed dark with anger. "You are in no position to make demands, human." "That's where you're wrong, Admiral." Voss nodded to Dr. Nakamura. "Activate Helix." Throughout the Thunderbolt, specialized emitters came online, generating a complex pattern of quantum pulses that spread outward in an expanding sphere. The pulses were invisible to standard sensors, passing through space like ripples through water. On the tactical display, nothing appeared to happen for several seconds. Then, one by one, indicators representing Zethian shields began to flicker. "What is this?" the Grand Admiral demanded, his composed demeanor cracking as status reports flooded in from his fleet. "This," Voss replied calmly, "is why you should have left us alone. Tactical, target the flagship's propulsion and weapon systems. Disable only." The Thunderbolt's main cannons fired in rapid sequence, each shot precisely calculated. The Zethian flagship's shields, designed to withstand bombardment from multiple capital ships, offered no resistance as the human weapons found their targets with surgical precision. Throughout the Zethian fleet, confusion reigned as ship after ship lost shield protection. The Helix system had done exactly what Dr. Nakamura had theorized it would. It had synchronized with the quantum recalibration frequency of the Zethian shields and introduced a cascading failure through the entire network. All Zethian vessels reporting critical shield failure, Lieutenant Rivera announced with barely contained awe. "They're completely vulnerable, Captain." Voss stood, her presence commanding the bridge. "Open a fleet-wide channel." When the communications officer nodded, Voss addressed not just the Grand Admiral, but every Zethian ship. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the HSS Thunderbolt. As you can see, your fleet is defenseless. I could order the destruction of every vessel in your formation right now." She paused, letting that reality sink in. But unlike the Zethian Alliance, humanity doesn't believe in genocide. She gestured to Chen, who transmitted a data packet to the Zethian flagship. "I've just sent you proof of your leadership's attempts to exterminate 7 different species, including ours. This evidence has also been transmitted to the Galactic Concord and to every major power in the galaxy. Your purification campaign ends today." On the view screen, Grand Admiral's X4-axis scales had paled to an ashen gray, the Zethian equivalent of shock. "You've left us defenseless," he managed finally. "If you don't intend to destroy us, what are your terms?" "Immediate cessation of all hostilities against human colonies and the other targeted species, full reparations for the worlds you've attacked, and your personal appearance before the Concord to answer for your crimes." Voss's voice hardened. "Those are my minimum terms. Accept them, or I will target your life support systems next." The Grand Admiral stared at her for a long moment, ancestral pride warring with the instinct for survival. Finally, he inclined his head in the Zethian gesture of submission. "We accept your terms, Captain Voss. A wise decision. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal from this system. The Thunderbolt will escort your flagship to the Concord headquarters." Voss ended the transmission and turned to her crew, who were watching her with expressions ranging from awe to disbelief. "Send word to Earth Command. The Zethian threat has been neutralized." She allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. "And inform Observer Tella that they can emerge from hiding now." As the Krell vessel moved out from behind Proxima Station, Lieutenant Raman reported, "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from across the sector. Word of what happened here is spreading faster than light." "Good," Voss replied. "Let them all know what happens when they dismiss humanity as insignificant." 3 weeks later, Captain Voss stood before the Galactic Concord Council, representatives of the 32 most powerful species in the known galaxy. The Grand Chamber fell silent as she approached the speaker's position, the eyes of hundreds of alien dignitaries fixed upon the human who had changed the balance of power with a single ship. "The evidence is conclusive," the Concord Arbiter announced, their crystalline form refracting light as they spoke. "The Zethian Alliance has violated our most sacred laws. Their leadership will face consequences for these actions." The Zethian representative, a hastily appointed diplomat replacing the now imprisoned Grand Admiral, kept their gaze lowered. "In light of these events," the Arbiter continued, "the Concord recognizes the formation of the new Orion Coalition, comprising humans, Krell, and the 5 other species targeted by the Zethian Purification Campaign. This coalition will be granted full rights and protections under Concord law." Observer Tella, now designated as the Krell ambassador, inclined their luminous form toward Voss. "A remarkable achievement, Captain. From threatened species to recognized power in less than a month." "We had a good teacher," Voss replied quietly. "Nothing motivates humans like being told we can't do something." As the session concluded, representatives from across the galaxy approached Voss, some with diplomatic overtures, others with thinly veiled concerns about humanity's demonstrated capabilities. A reptilian diplomat from one of the oldest spacefaring races leaned close. "Your Helix technology. It could disable any fleet in the galaxy, couldn't it?" Voss smiled enigmatically. "That's an interesting theory." "The Zethians were not entirely wrong. You know," the diplomat persisted, "your species advances at an alarming rate. It makes some of us uncomfortable." "That discomfort is a choice," Voss replied, her voice carrying just enough edge to make the diplomat straighten. "Humanity sought peaceful relations from our first steps into the galaxy. We were dismissed, underestimated, and then targeted for extinction. We survived." She looked around the chamber, meeting the gazes of various representatives. "We don't want domination. We never did, but we will not be dismissed again." As Captain Voss departed the chamber, a message reached her personal device, a communication from Earth Command. New orders. The Thunderbolt was to conduct a diplomatic tour of key systems throughout the galaxy. A show of force disguised as goodwill. Voss smiled to herself. The galaxy had trembled at the approach of a single human warship. Now they would learn that humanity could be a powerful friend or a terrible enemy. The choice was theirs.